Hello, hello, wherever you are in the world. This is Agnes van Rijn of agnesvanrijn.com, and I am the founder of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. Today, some of you will be disappointed because I had announced that Denise Dutfield Thomas, the CEO of Lucky Bitch, would be the one that I would be interviewing. Unfortunately, due to the time difference, she's in the other part of the world for me. We did not manage to find a slot that would work for the two of us. So she will be interviewed now. Her interview will be released on June the 22nd, so next Monday, and now we have it all confirmed. However, I have found an amazing plan B for you, because I have known Michelle Clarke for quite a few years now, and well, if we have an example of a woman who made things happen in her life, she definitely did. Let me first read you her small biography. So Michelle Clarke is a global executive coach and the owner of Michelle Clarke Coaching. She works with leaders, executives, and executive coaches, helping them to develop strong, influential, authentic personal brands and to elegantly navigate the complexity of the 21st century leadership through heightened self-awareness. But what is special about Michelle is that she left her home country of South Africa 16 months ago to take a sabbatical to Chile. And this sabbatical has now completely evolved into a working and travel experience. Her challenge has been to develop a virtual business that sustains her and allows her to travel while developing connections and a network in the Latin Americas to allow herself to open up potential business opportunity there. Michelle, welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. How are you?
I'm really strong today, and I love talking with you. So excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years now. I think we've known each other for 4 or 5 years, probably, if not more.
It has been there. In fact, if I remember, we met ironically on Twitter. And then
you're right.
To another group, and so the relationship has remained virtual and wonderful. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoy following you because of course your story is quite amazing. So tell us more about that. So you are a coach in South Africa. What do you do there, and what happens next?
I'm a coach in South Africa. I graduated in my first coach training in South Africa. I consequently continued to get more coach training. I went to London for some training, Buenos Aires for some training, but always back to South Africa. I took a leadership position in the coaching community, and so I was well connected in that coaching community and doing really well. One thing that was always a desire of mine was that my coaching clients and I would start to work virtually. I'm not a fan of the traffic. I know that other people aren't fans of the traffic. There is nothing fun about spending half your day in traffic. And I really wanted my clients to move into a virtual situation with me. But clients who are comfortable in the face-to-face space find it a bit of a stretch to come into the virtual space.
I'm experiencing the same.
Yeah. And then you're in the same city as your clients. They go, oh, come on, Michelle, come down to the restaurant. We can have a cup of coffee. You can see each other. So I was having a hard time shifting my clients into the virtual space. And then I had some, what I guess we would call a midlife crisis, some experiences that shook my world a little bit, the death of my father, a breakup of a relationship. A number of things happened for me that gave me a reason to say, I need a break from South Africa for a little bit. I need a break from my city. I need to experience something new. And it's only going to be 3 months. That was the intent at the beginning. And my dear clients, because it's only going to be 3 months, will you come with me virtually and let me continue to coach you? And because it was only going to be 3 months, people agreed and said, right, let's stretch into this thing. Let's see how it works. My choice of Chile was quite random. I knew one person who lived in Chile.
Wow.
I had met I had met her before in Argentina at a coaching conference. She was the head of the ICF at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt, one person who is also a coach, that's all I need. I'm going to go to Chile. And I think I was in trouble the first day I arrived, because I felt a great energy from Santiago. I felt great energy from the people of Santiago. I loved walking the streets. I think day one I was completely hooked.
Sold out.
Yeah, sold. I love it here. And I continued to coach with my clients virtually. So that was really exciting for me. In the third month of my being here, I began a conversation with a South African businessman whom I had not met before. He shared with me some of his challenges in his business that he had come to set up here in Chile.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that conversation led me to believe that my work might be needed here. And so I took a bit of a bold step in contacting the airline and saying, can I extend my ticket home? And they said, how long do you want to extend it for? And I said, what's possible? And they said, a year. I said, extend it for a year. I'm going to see where these conversations take me. And I am fortunate for a number of reasons. I am working with the South African consortium as a cross-cultural coach, so that is very exciting for me. And I have managed, because of those initial clients to whom I'm very grateful, who agreed to work with me virtually, I have consequently managed to build up a broader and larger clientele of people who are now keen to be coached virtually. So I have a number of clients that I'm working with whom I've never met before in person, although I like to claim that Skype is very personable, because here we are in person.
I agree. I fully agree.
Yeah. So my 3-month journey has now lasted 16 months. And over that time, I have taken the opportunity to visit other cities in Latin America that were very exciting for me. So I have been to Peru, and I have been to Uruguay, and I've been to Brazil. So having a great time so far.
Wow, this is really very impressive, very impressive. And it's great. Yeah, I agree with you on this whole thing around virtuality. What I'm experiencing is that in Europe in general, so South Africa obviously not being Europe, in case people think that I think that. But here I really am having a hard time. People want absolutely face-to-face, where in the Anglo-Saxon world in general, there is not even a thought around it. It's just, you just work virtually with people. And I must say that I don't know what I would be doing without that, because I'm enjoying it so much. And I spend multiple hours a day with a webcam. I must say that I'm not sure I would love it without a webcam. I like to see people to the extent quite often that I completely forget that it's a webcam. You know what happened? What happened recently to me is that I have a suitcase below my desk, and I was talking to someone like you, like this, and I hit the suitcase, and I said, "Oh, sorry." Because I
thought you'd hit her.
I was so much in the conversation that I'd completely forgotten that it was a screen.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I have realized that I prefer to work virtually than I do face-to-face.
Yeah, I have the same,
for a variety of reasons. And it is not just in Europe where people want the face-to-face coaching. Many of us coaches who are keen on moving into the virtual space are finding some degree of resistance from clients. For that reason, I began about a year ago now, I began a community on Facebook. The name of the community is Coaching via Technology. And the whole intent for me around that community was to assist this base of coaches to develop whatever additional subtle skills may be required in order to sell a product that is as effective, if not more effective, than face-to-face coaching. So although one can take one's coaching face-to-face skills and shift them into the virtual space, I think we do better with developing some subtle listening techniques, some subtle techniques to allow us to create intimacy even through the technology. And so we have now, I think this morning I welcomed the 802nd coach into this group.
I will be the 803 then.
Yay!
And third.
Where we discuss every day how to make our skills very effective in this virtual space.
That's great. So one of the challenges you have been facing is obviously finding the clients who are willing to work virtually. What other challenges are you facing? Because, well, I suppose that to start with, you arrived with a suitcase or two or three, I don't know, but how is
I arrived with one suitcase. I arrived with one suitcase in the month of February, so I had enough clothing for a summer. And I lived in a country in South Africa where we are not, we don't often experience snow. And I arrived in a country where winter brought its first snowfall, and my summer wardrobe was no longer sufficient. So I now have two suitcases. And there are many challenges. For me, it's really interesting that the biggest challenge has been language. I took Spanish classes before I left South Africa. The Spanish that is spoken in Chile is a colloquial Spanish, spoken very fast. It's very challenging to understand it. And I'm a young woman, but I'm not a 20-year-old young woman any longer. And my brain has gone a little bit closed on language capacity. So the language has been quite a challenge. Because I work every day and I'm working in English and I'm marketing in English, my thinking process has remained in English. And I think I would probably have opened up even more doors in Latin America if I had got on top of my Spanish. It was perhaps 2 weeks ago when I had a bit of a brain breakthrough, and all of a sudden I could understand what people were saying to me, where for months before they had said the same thing and I'd have to go,
wow.
And all of a sudden people spoke and I could get it. So I do believe that this deep immersion of putting yourself into a language, eventually I will be proficient at it.
You will get there.
I'll get there. Other challenges, I am traveling a lot. So I work with short-term rental situations. And so there's this endless thought about where am I going to go to next. In the city of Santiago, I have stayed in areas from the poorest of the area right up to the classy areas. So that's been quite a wonderful experience, immersing myself in the different cultural groups. But always this unsettled, where am I going to be? And similarly, that brings some quite extraordinary gifts with it. Because when you are not rooted down with all your stuff and anchored to one place, you really are able to fly. And you really are able to adapt and to pick up opportunities as they arise.
That must have, based on what you're explaining, that must have created a lot of deep changes in yourself as well. What about, has it affected, and when I say affected, positively or negatively, I suppose more positively, but your value system or whatever, what has changed for you?
I'm going to be honest when I tell you that I am still trying to articulate the change. It's not very easy sometimes to see yourself objectively and to see the
Of course. Yeah, we never do.
yeah, but for sure, I can see it in my coaching has taken a much deeper turn. The conversations I'm having are, or the questions I'm asking in my coaching, and the conversations that lead from them are far more meaningful. And I think that has come from putting myself outside of my own comfort zone, which is what we encourage clients to do. So
Of course.
a much greater empathy for that. In terms of value systems, I believe that at one point I was pretty attached to my material goodies, that my material goodies and my motor car and my things meant that I was succeeding in life. I've recently got rid of a whole lot of things that were still stored in South Africa because they don't. Those things are not an indication of success. I'm realizing that what is more indication of success is how much can I apply the knowledge and the wisdom that I have in my head. And if I can apply that and produce out of headspace, that is the winner.
Impressive. Ooh. I think that it's really in 16 months explaining what you're experiencing. The transformation must really be massive. Well, I read it also through your various posts, etc. You can really see that the type of questioning has changed a lot. Yeah.
Yes, it's interesting. I think that's also from embracing vulnerability. I think
the power of vulnerability.
The power of vulnerability. I think in my safe, secure career where I was able to hide behind a veneer of confidence, and I am now embracing my veneer of vulnerability.
So let's rewind a little bit and think of our listeners who are most likely women who would want to make things happen in their life. So in your case, it might be slightly different in that you had not anticipated that you would be starting all of that. But based on what you have been experiencing, there has been a growing process of you wanting to do something. How can you express that process? What happened? How did it evolve?
When I was in Cape Town deciding that I was going to go somewhere, I hadn't yet decided where the somewhere was. But the process that I followed in the first instance was a lot of decluttering. I think that the physical act of decluttering, getting rid of documents, books, outdated media, I spent a long time cleaning my house without really knowing why I was cleaning it out, but knowing that I needed to make space for something new.
Yeah.
So I think that process is a great place to start. If we want to change, we don't really know what that change, we can't see it, visualize it in its totality. Just to start making space for it is a great start. The other thing that I remember doing very well is I remember walking down the streets. I'm a great walker. I love to walk for exercise. Walking in the streets of my neighborhood in Cape Town and looking at the trees and looking at the houses and mentally visualizing that they were some other things. They were not the trees and the houses I was seeing. They were buildings. They were something. And I had no picture because I'd never been to Santiago when I settled on this destination. So I had no idea of what it would look like. But just visualizing myself being in some completely new surrounding, that became a critical exercise for me. And one day I arrived in a jet plane and landed here, and my environment had changed. So I'm a great believer in visualization.
So basically, what you are saying is that before actually stepping out of your comfort zone, you were mentally already preparing yourself to step out of your comfort zone.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
much so. I think the other process that I now consider extremely valuable was to take stock of my capabilities and my skills and my strengths. The intention was a sabbatical, so it wasn't necessarily to continue the business as I was doing. There may have been something else that I wanted to do for a living. And so I took stock of what is it that I had in my, what I now call a toolkit. What can I carry in my imaginary toolkit with me to this new place that I can utilize? And of course, there are my coaching skills, my various qualifications, and there are soft skills that each of us has, maybe an ability to network, maybe an ability to do improvised acting as I have. So really taking stock of everything that I could use to my advantage to see what would happen. And so if women are looking to make a change and start something, I'd recommend that as well, is get really honest with yourself about what your innate skills are that you're going to be bringing into your new project.
Which is for you and I something very natural when we come from the angle of personal branding. Huh?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And it's funny because you remind me of something else that I had not thought of since we started speaking, is that you did say earlier on that what started all of that was stuff happening in your life. And I did post last week, I think it was, on LinkedIn and on my blog, etc., a post around the 5 steps to take to reinvent yourself when life has knocked you down. And that's, in fact, I'm only now realizing that what you are describing is what I'm writing about on that post. Because, yes, you know, you do need to get that clarity as to who you are, what's important to you, and what builds you, basically. Yeah, interesting, yeah. Very interesting.
I think many of us, or certainly this is my experience in working with my clients, many of us want a clear picture of what the future looks like. We really want to only take the step once the picture is clear. And in truth, we can never, the current picture I find myself in is nothing I could have dreamed up, nothing I could have planned. I had no idea. So the only thing we really can get clear on is the who I am, what have I got, what are my intentions, and then to start the walk.
It reminds me of this metaphor that I think it's David Neagle who says so, that when you decide to take a car by night from one place to the other, you don't see further than what the car lights are showing you. However, you do trust that the car will take you there, because as you move along, the space is getting lighter, and so you do not see the end destination yet, but you trust that you will get there because the path is getting enlightened as you move forward.
I love that.
And it's exactly what you're describing, in fact.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what type of tips, I'm rewinding. When we look at the fears, that one, because fear usually is the roadblock that stops us completely. What would you want to say around the notion of fear?
Be fear's friend. I think fear is very natural. I don't think it's something to be eliminated. I think it's something to be acknowledged and really embraced. It lets you know you're still alive. And that is a great feeling. It's a great feeling to recognize that I'm still living in my world and I'm still alive because I'm really scared. And feel the fear and do it anyway. I think Susan Jeffers had the right idea with that title of that book. I suffer, if suffer is the right word, regularly from fear. I'm fearful about what the future brings. I'm fearful about where the next project might come from. But there is little I can do but move with it and move through it and take it with me as a friend. Yeah.
Would you say that it's even some kind of a almost power, something that helps you move forward?
A motivating factor? I completely agree with that. I think that we achieve we're set to achieve sometimes our greatest things when we feel our back is up against a wall. That's when the real fighting spirit comes out. And okay, I'm going to pull this thing together. And silly examples and this is the process of maturing, but in the early days of my business, if I was typing up an email, I would go, oh, I wonder if it's right, and is my wording correct? And it would take me hours of rereading, and with trepidation, I'd hit the send key. Now I read it and I go, whoo, that's scary. Let's see what's going to happen. And it's building a muscle, right? I often say to clients, just like we build a muscle in gym, we need to build mental muscles and emotional muscles that just allow us to just move through the fear.
So what are the tips you would give to someone wanting to, well, I was going to say start a business. The dream is not necessarily starting a business. It might be something completely different. In your case, it's a combination of business and going for a dream. I've had a guest probably a year ago or so that I interviewed, who was just a woman having a career, but her dream was to go and travel the world for 1 year. She was married. Her husband knew that it really was important, but he knew that he could not follow. And he said, go for it, because if you don't do it. And so, in fact, well, she had to give up her career at that point, but it's interesting that going for your dream is not necessarily associated to having, setting up your business or whatever, even if you and I are also working a lot with business owners. But so what tips would you give to someone having a dream and being afraid of going there?
Tips. The one thing that comes to mind is a philosophy, is to develop a personal philosophy about what it means to have a meaningful life. I think that so many people have quoted, and we're all familiar with those quotations that tell us don't come to the end of the journey and not have done the things you wanted to. So developing a personal philosophy about what's really important and what would deeply regret were it not to happen for ourselves. Creating some kind of a vision about who we wish to be in this lifetime. And if that wish to be is a business person, if it's a world traveler, if it's an artist, to create a personality, create an internalness that matches that vision of what we want to achieve. Very practical tips. Get rid of all your debt.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
that really holds us back from achieving dreams.
True,
the
absolutely.
debts we have to maintain. So get rid of all your debt. Try and understand what your assets are, not only the physical assets, but your mental assets and your skill sets. It would be wrong of me not to say get a coach or a mentor or a trusted friend or advisor so that you can talk yourself through this and start to make more of a reality of it. Become friends with the fear.
You said so. Absolutely.
And go for it.
There is two things that I always mention or often mention to bounce back on what you were saying. As far as vision is concerned, life philosophy, I have really made mine what Brendan Burchard says, that at the end of your life, there is only the answer to 3 questions that matter. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And I love that. For me, it's really what fuels everything I'm doing. I keep that in mind. And the other one is this French, I don't know, I never know how you call it, a navigator. She crossed the Atlantic, if I remember well. I think it was rowing.
Wow.
I think it was rowing even. She's called Maud Fontenoy. And when she arrived, she was interviewed. And one of the guys said to her, what would you want to say to the people watching you? And she said, don't let ever anyone tell you that your dream is not possible. And I love that. I really love that. Yeah. It's what, at some point we are quite often stopped by people around us judging that it's not, along the lines, it's not what we do, what we've learned, it's not what society is expecting from us, or it is risky, etc. Don't let anyone tell you that your dream is not possible. Yeah, that's a great one.
And I see you doing that by this radio program, and by the work you do is really helping people to step into their dreams. That's great.
Yeah, that's really something that I believe in very much, in the power of the ripple effect and in being a role model. And I do believe that by being a role model ourselves, we will help more women do the same. And with the help of the ripple effect, well, I keep saying, as the Dalai Lama said, we will save the world.
Yes, good.
Yeah. Michelle, it's been wonderful to have you. Thank you so much. I am just quickly going to tell the listeners, well, it's not listeners only now anymore with the video, that the recording, both podcast and video, will be made available on my website, agnesvanrijn.com, ANYESVANRHIJN.com, and simply hit the tab on the navigation bar that says WWNTH interviews. It will also be made available on the various social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., etc. And as I said when we started, so next Monday I will be interviewing, you will have the pleasure of listening to Denise Dutfield-Thomas, as I said, the CEO of Lucky Bitch. Have you ever heard of her book, Lucky Bitch?
No, I'm interested to explore that.
You should read it. It's amazing. She's all about your relationship with money, in fact, which is a part of my program. We were trained together, as a matter of fact, but where I incorporated only it as a part of my program, she created a whole business around it, and she has created an amazing community on Facebook. Very, very supportive. I really love it. So Denise will be, her interview will be made available on June 22nd. So thank you very much again. I'm glad we had the possibility to catch up, and we absolutely need to do it more often.
Yes, I completely agree.
Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.